On the video. And then we went, well, I said, I couldn't even hear y'all. We were like, take the whole mouth. If we do. I'm going to go to sign it. I am so sorry. That is Lydia.
Okay, good.
The August 16th, 2021 meeting of the Williamson County School Board will come to order. Board members, will you please record your attendance? Thank you, board members. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. And tonight, Deputy Montarius Brown will be leading us. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Our next item on the agenda is items of particular public interest. That's also known as public comment. We have 30 minutes designated for public comment. Each speaker tonight will have 2 minutes each. Mr. Casey Hogg, School Board Vice Chair, will be the timer, and he will let you know when your time's up. Mr. Hogg, would you please raise your hand? This time is available for Williamson County residents. All persons must state their name, state your address if you have not written it on the sign-up form, and then identify yourself if you are speaking for an organization, please. Just a reminder, the chair has the right to terminate the remarks of an individual who is disruptive or does not adhere to the rules. And just as a reminder too, no clapping during someone speaking, or no noise at all while someone is speaking, because just as that person wants to be heard, everyone who has signed up for public comment wants to be heard. Again, public comment is one of several ways the board can hear from constituents. We also hear from constituents via email, phone, and in-person meetings. And again, business decorum is expected not just during public comment, but during this entire meeting. Again, no talking or clapping as a person speaks, including members of this board. And again, disruptive individuals will be asked to leave. If anyone has signs, if you want to hold them up now. I don't see any signs. Okay, thank you. Then you can please put your sign on the floor and do not hold it up anymore during the meeting. Thank you. And then let's see if there's anything else I want to tell you. Oh, we will take a break after public comment in the event that someone needs to leave or has childcare issues, etc. So I'm going to call up 3 people at a time in order and just be ready to speak when it's your turn. The first 3 are Christina Kilbaco, Susan Macy, and Lee Hardy. Again, apologies in advance if I mispronounce your last name. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Christina Kibalko. I'm a mother of 5 and a Williamson County resident. I came here today. I have a daughter that just started public school for the first time this year. She is really excited about it, but there were some things that are of concern with regards to the coronavirus. I came here last week for the meeting and was hoping that there would be some real solutions brought to the table, but unfortunately it seemed that everything was very, everyone had tunnel vision and we were all focusing on masks rather than some of the policies and mitigation strategies that we have in the school. I've written you all a letter and I don't have time to read it here, but I did make copies for every one of you, as well as a study that was recently published regarding emotions and how important it is for children to see faces for their social development. I want to let you know that I've spent this past week trying to promote healing and communication within the community. I've been out in the streets, I've been talking to people on both sides of the issue, trying to come up with something that everyone can agree on. And both sides seem to demonize the other side, and they focus on their differences, but there are so many things that we have in common, and one of those most important reasons is that we love our children, we love our communities, and we want to see coronavirus gone and get back to some sort of semblance of normalcy. So I have a strategy, a proposed solution. It is not a single silver bullet that's going to fix everything. This is a multi-dimensional situation, and it requires a multi-dimensional and complex solution. So one of the things that I did want to talk about that I've put in here is my daughter, the very first day of school, I told her to go wash her hands before lunch. And she came home to tell me that that is not...
Excuse me.
Okay. She came home to tell me that she couldn't wash her hands.
Ma'am, your time's up.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I have these.
You can leave those right there.
Okay.
In the front. Thank you. Our next speaker is Susan Macy.
Good evening. My name is Susan Macy. I live at 9531 Sanctuary Place in Brentwood. And I was not able to be at last week's meeting, but I did watch the coverage of it and the meeting itself. And I was concerned by some of the extreme behavior by a couple of people outside and the conflation by some people on this board, the community, the media, between that and the anger felt by a lot of these parents. And I don't think that's a fair conflation, and so I wanted to speak to that. Last week's board meeting was attended by hundreds feeling a range of emotions. Predictably, the whole story was not told. While none of us condones threats or violence, each group likely has well-intentioned, even nefarious actors steering our causes in a direction that is unwanted, unappreciated, and ungodly. Having said that, these parents have a right to their anger, and it's well placed. Number one, this board allowed an age-inappropriate, social agenda-driven curriculum into our elementary classrooms. 2, this board poorly vetted FHS, paid them $55,000, and invited more CRT into our schools. 3, you supported masking, tracing, and quarantining of our healthy children. 4, the State Department of Ed wants to assess and aggregate our children's mental health information. 5, our Education Commissioner enjoys unexplained committee changes, policy decisions, and conflicts of interest. 6, your tolerance of the mature minor doctrine is unacceptable. 7, in pushing masks, you blame and scare our children for causing COVID disease and death. 8, our request for correction of these failures is repeatedly mocked. We trusted and outsourced too much to you, but we're correcting that now. Violent? Absolutely never. Angry? You bet we're angry. Fix these issues or get used to it.
Our next speaker is Lee Hardy.
Hi there. I found this information on the Tennessee.gov website. I'm sure all of you know, but I just wanted to reiterate it. I am really perplexed at the numbers when I pull the numbers on the Tennessee.gov website that explain, or I'm sure are part of the reason, as to why we have hired Fostering Healthy Solutions. I looked at Deshaun Foster and his family, and it does appear as though he personally has done some pretty nice things, actually, respecting women, encouraging women not to be harassed, sexually harassed, raped, things like that, and for that I really commend him. But I'm perplexed at the numbers when I look at them as to why we have, at Williamson County, have the taxpayers paying for Fostering Healthy Solutions for the reason that we have. Last year, across the state of Tennessee, there were 3,900 instances of bullying. 250 of those were race-related, with double being sexually charged incidences and cyber-related incidences. So the race-related ones were only 2.9%. 2.9% is not good. We would like to see it at 0. But I'm just not sure, and I think it's a good question for us to ask ourselves. That's an awful lot of money. $40,000, $50,000 is a lot of money for something that appears not that frequently, and maybe we could combine it with something, maybe kindness or anti-bullying training or something like that. But again, just to mention it, I want you all to know, and I want to reiterate that. Thank you.
Our next speaker is, let me call up the next three, Jay Brown, Corey Martin, and Justin Canoe.
My name is Hunter Brown, and I speak as a taxpayer, resident of Williamson County, a complainant, and a citizen. On July 3rd and again on July 7th, I sent a request to Julia Hoyer requesting information pertaining to the Curriculum Review Committee and its process, inquiring about the basic operational rules of the hearing required by 4.4037C. Subsequently, I also believe I mentioned that in my prior comments to the board. I've had no response. I'm unaware of any information as to the basic operational provisions, the rules of the process, including, for example, notice requirements, time, date, and location, agenda, names, titles, roles, and authorities of all participants or other parties of interest in the hearing, the standing of those participants, the limitations of rights of complainants to present evidence or cross-examine, limitations, if any, of rights of the complainants to participate in the hearing, including the right to present evidence, expert testimony, and so forth. I'd also like to know if there are any limitations of the rights of complainants to be represented by counsel, jointly or severally. I'd like the assurance of adequate and timely advance notice to me and other complainants to allow adequate time to prepare. My concern there being further delay is going to compromise our ability to advance our case. And I guess I would add, I would like assurance that members of the review committee are obligated to speak truthfully without omission of any material facts or circumstances, the omission of which would cause a statement to be untrue or misleading. These issues remain unaddressed, and the delay in providing this basic information is unnecessary. As you know well, good faith involves defining the rules of engagement.
Time. Next speaker, please, Corey Martin.
Hello, my name's Corey Martin. My oldest kid just started at Grassland Elementary School, and she loves Mrs. White. I realize that the state government has rendered your efforts last week to be impotent, but I wanted to thank you for your leadership in attempting to protect my daughter's health with the mask mandate that you guys tried to do. Obviously, you guys were inside during the meeting last week. I was outside. I stood with my wife on the grass out there as we were repeatedly verbally assaulted, astonished at our neighbors. As we stood with an African-American mama and her daughter, we witnessed racial mocking and just so much hate coming at us. If any community needs DEI, it's us.
Next speaker, Mr. Canoe.
I'm Justin Canoe. I'm a dad in Williamson County. Didn't plan on speaking, but here we go. First of all, critical race theory is not in our schools, and it never was. And the people here to complain about it did not know what it was 6 months ago and had never heard of it. That's why they're going after diversity, equity, and inclusion instead and trying to pretend they're the same thing. They aren't. And frankly, there aren't many communities around the globe that need DEI more than this one that we live in. On another note, I'm a dad of a new kindergartner, and her first day was right after the chaos last week. She went to school and was one of just a few kids in her class wearing a mask, which made her ask me why she had to. My answer was because we want to take care of other people. She's 5 years old, but she understood that concept, and it's disappointing that more adults around here can't seem to grasp it. I asked a pastor friend of mine, and he was very clear there's no actual biblical justification for using the Bible to get out of a mask mandate passed by a majority of this elected board. But thousands are doing it anyway, calling it a religious exemption, which is frankly just sad. Avoiding masks is not in the Bible, but taking care of others is. And now today we have Governor Lee's executive order to allow opt-outs, which is government overreach undercutting a local decision. If you only like democracy when it goes your way, you don't actually like democracy. Thank you.
Our next speakers, Sally Berg, Marissa Diplock, and Debbie Pace.
Hi, I'm Sally Berg. I'm in District 4, Rathbiscus District. There have been many claims lately that those opposed to CRT don't want American history being taught. Teaching history accurately should be the goal. Students, of course, must learn the good and the bad of American history. But far from being impartial, CRT views America as a structurally evil nation. Worse, CRT is an inaccurate telling of history that embraces false narratives like the discredited 1619 Project, which wrongly states that the American Revolution was only fought to preserve slavery. Curriculums such as Great Minds, Wit and Wisdom are not impartial anyway. They intentionally offered a jaundiced view of American history, focusing on the negative while minimizing the many positives of America.
Marissa Diplock.
Good evening, I'm Marisa Diplock. I'm here representing Moms for Liberty. Diversity in DEI does not simply mean all races, ethnicities, and backgrounds are welcome here. Diversity, as defined by DEI programs, will result in quotas. Williamson County is roughly 88% white, 5% Hispanic, 5% Asian, and 4% Black. Our schools are representatives of our community in which they serve and will change as demographics continue to change. People of all ethnicities are welcome here. To increase diversity means you want to artificially influence those numbers. That means quotas. That means discriminating by race. No parent wants their child to be a number on either side of a quota. That strips us of our individualisms, basic humanity, and instead reduces us to a classification by our skin color. Additionally, diversity in DEI does not mean diversity of thought. It is quite the opposite. CRT, DEI demands conformity of thought and does not tolerate dissent.
Debbie Pace.
Hi, I'm Debbie Pace.
diversity, equity, and inclusion, are related to CRT. DEI is the Trojan horse through which CRT enters institutions. This means DEI is actually more dangerous. Why? Because CRT alone is just Marxist-inspired academic theory and should only be discussed as one of the many theoretical ways to view the world. But DEI insists CRT claims are fact, not theory, and then cloaks its poisonous ideology in innocuous feel-good language. DEI is designed to inject CRT into an institution to indoctrinate individuals and ultimately impose a caste system. People with white skin will be labeled privileged and oppressors. Meanwhile, people of color, especially black people, will be labeled victims and oppressed. In other words, DEI will introduce systematic racism into the school rather than remove it. If individuals reject any of DEI's CRT-based claims, they will be told it's proof they have not done the work, they are exhibiting white fragility, or yes, they are a racist. Thank you.
I'm going to call the final four speakers up. Teresa Branchieri, Kimberly Calcote, Kay Jackson, and Robin Zeman. Ms. Branchieri.
Hi, I'm Teresa Biancheri, and I live in Brentwood. The E in DEI stands for equity. There is an important distinction here. Equity is not equality. Equity is the idea that all racial groups must achieve equal outcomes. That's Marxism. Equity insists that disparate outcomes are automatic proof of America's systemic racism. This assertion must be accepted by faith. Once equity is adopted as the goal, an institution will be required to boost certain marginalized groups while holding back so-called privileged groups. How does this happen, you ask? It happens through reparations and compelled redistribution of resources. In other words, institutional and government-sponsored discrimination will become the norm in order to achieve so-called equity. On the other hand, equality before the law is the American ideal. Equality demands that society strive to create equal opportunity for all, but doesn't insist on equal outcomes. Equality accepts that there will be disparate outcomes in America, as is true in all societies. Thank you.
Kimberly Calcote.
Hi, Kimberly Calcote, District 6, Moms for Liberty. The I in DEI stands for inclusion. In DEI, inclusion does not mean all are welcomed or included. A rational everyday parent is all for inclusion. They define it usually as including or welcoming everyone regardless of race, gender, religion, political party, etc. Unfortunately, inclusion, as practiced by DEI firms like Fostering Healthy Solutions, it's an entirely different beast. Inclusion drives inclusive language, which is similar to replacing Mother's Day with Birthing People's Day in the name of inclusivity. That's why WCS is considering changing the names of mother-son and father-daughter events in the name of inclusion. And inclusion will demand that the faculty and kids be asked to announce their pronouns, specifying their gender identity, which has really already begun in WCS. During the first week of school in this year, students as young as 8th grade were being asked their preferred pronouns, some in front of their classmates, making them extremely uncomfortable. The bottom line is inclusion, as implemented by DEI policies, results in forced speech codes. It's where a child may be afraid to raise their hand for fear of asking the wrong question or using forbidden words. It stifles honest questions, debate, free speech, and perversely, our concern is that it will be used to exclude anyone who dissents.
Kelly Jackson.
Kelly Jackson. I am a Nolansville resident, and I am in Jen's district, Moms for Liberty. CRT imposed through DEI and curriculums like Wit and Wisdom turns every subject matter from math and science to English and music into a discussion about oppression, social justice, and politics. CRT and DEI does not teach kids how to think, but what to think. Instead of focusing on educational fundamentals, it focuses on racial grievances, skin color, and sowing division. In short, CRT's essential argument is that America is systemically racist. That is to say, every institution, Law and policy in America is racist to its core, only invented to oppress people of color, especially black people. CRT states that all white people today are complicit in America's systemic racism, including white students, just by virtue of their skin color. We are already seeing these outcomes in students after completing the first year of Wit and Wisdom curriculum. There are WCS elementary students of different races that are now having negative mindsets in regards to their race because of what they learned in school. Therefore, stopping this poisonous ideology from further entering WCS schools isn't a distraction, it's absolutely essential.
Next speaker is Robin Steenman.
Robin Steenman, District 12. Fostering Healthy Solutions has assessed Williamson County as a county divided, and they recommend a culture reset and the hiring of a DEI professional. Does this sound unifying? Does it sound like diversity, equity, and inclusion will solve the problem? Diversity, equity, and inclusion is critical race theory in praxis, implemented as policy. But where could this division be stemming from? The county commission, the alderman, the mayor? Most residents couldn't tell you what these people actually do, but they know their school board. I submit that the division is actually coming from the school board. Most people, myself included, are loath to get involved, but you involve the children and I will, and we will. And you saw that in play on Tuesday of last week with anywhere from 1,200 to 2,300 parents. You have demonstrated a lack of concern over masked curriculum, pronouns, diversity, equity, inclusion, in short, parental rights. CRT is born of critical theory, and what does critical theory seek to do? Divide. It is a Marxist idea of dividing up a society. It's not even implemented in Williamson County, and yet we are a county divided. How is a theory that seeks to divide going to heal division? If Wilco has been rightly assessed to be divided, this ideology is already accomplishing its goal without even being implemented here in Williamson County. I would like to remind us of the words we all just recited: one nation under God, indivisible. A county divided against itself cannot stand. I would encourage the board to listen to the parents. Thank you.
That was the last speaker this evening. We will now take a 5-minute break so that those who might need to leave can go ahead and leave, and we'll resume this meeting in 5 minutes. Thank you.